Welcome in, friends and future friends, to a live episode of the Sports and the World podcast. I'm the Derek. Hope all of you are well and safe out there. Um, a lot to get to. We're in October. We got playoff baseball. We got hockey revving back up again. We got the WNBA Finals. We got NFL. We get college football, of course. We got a lot going on. So, welcome and thank you for taking time out of your day. Won't keep you this long because, listen, there's a lot of sports to watch. So, before we get started, I see John already commented with my tribal chief. I acknowledge you. Thank you so much. And, or we got Brown's big bets. Haven't been doing that great, but we're going to hopefully get better there in that regard. Now, let's kick off the show a little bit differently. I want to talk about these WNBA finals because the old when people talk about women, people don't watch women's sports. Well, the numbers say otherwise, and this series, it's been about Asia Wilson. That's what this has been all about. And let me tell you something. She's averaging almost 28 points a game, 27.7 points per game, almost 13 rebounds at 12.7. Listen, the ace is great. Of course, Asia Wilson with the game-winning shot. It's fun to watch great players be great, no matter the sport. Whether it was watching MJ, watching LeBron. When you watching greats, Asia Wilson is in that category. She is an all-time great. And whenever that career, that time comes, she could make the case to be the greatest player. She's that good, and she's proved it. Another MVP award. And this Aces team, it's just not Asia Wilson. That's the part that people understand. It's Chelsea Gray. It's Jackie Young. Jewel Lloyd coming off the bench. Having to convince Beckett to come off the bench. That's how good this Aces team, over 250, I believe, over 250 combined games of playoff experience, of playoff games on that roster. It's a championship roster. It's a championship pedigree. And for Phoenix, it's an uphill battle. You lose home court advantage. Now, what do? Because as great as Alyssa Thomas is, and it's not like they haven't been competing. Like, these have been some relatively high-scoring games. So, if you're Phoenix, if you're Nate Tibbetts, the head coach, you got Satu Sablé, you got Alyssa Thomas, you got DeWanna Bonner, and you got great shooters on that team. You got like the Sammy Wickham. What do? It's like I always say with great players, you can't stop them. You just have to find some kind of way to contain them. And that's what we're seeing. I just wanted to get it out there. Also, I remember I said in the last episode, I think I debated whether to wear my Pete Crow Armstrong jersey that I won in a contest, but I said, no, I'll wear some my Cubby blue. So I found my blue shirt. I got a Cubby shirt in there. I got a Cubby shirt. I got that along with the Pete Crow, So, listen, speaking of playoff baseball, if you're a Yankees fan, turn away. Because, like, the Blue Jays winning the series in Yankee Stadium, let me tell you something, this Blue Jays team, Vlad Guerrero Jr., is like, hop on my back and let's go. And they're essentially one series away from making it to the World Series. And it's just a matter of they're just waiting on the winner of Detroit and Seattle, 2 games apiece in that series, going to the 5th game. It's listen, once again, like Vlad Guerrero, like we're talking at the beginning of the season. I think I talked about like there was the whole issue with the contract, and there was and he's just shown up and absolutely just carried this team on his back. And I love the way that the pitching is with John Schneider. It's where it's like more relievers, like they're using it's the reliever approach. Which is like in today's baseball, it's all about the preservation of the arm. And you have these 10, I think they have like 3, maybe 4 starters, I'm not sure. And they have like 10 relievers. And it's fun to watch that sort of baseball because like back in the day, we see the workhorses. And we still see the workhorses. Like we saw it was, seeing Clayton Kershaw on the bullpen was different. But I'm like, that's the way the game is going. And, and right now, speaking of speaking of the Dodgers, listen, they're one game away from going for another shot to go back to the World Series. And then I see my buddy, I see Craig, and Craig, yes, Craig, the Brewers are up 2-1 against my Cubbies. It's a fun series. And then, Freddie Peralta on the mound. Freddie Peralta's their ace. I'm a little scared. But this Cubs offense showed me something yesterday. There's life. There's life in this team offensively. Like, my skepticism was the pitching, Matthew Boyd. Can he do it? Like, the splits tell me that, hey, at home, listen, he's got to go out there and deliver and send this series back. Send this series back to Milwaukee for a fifth and deciding game. A lot of great baseball. Listen, WNBA Finals and hockey, I'm getting there. And I've said that for years, I'm getting there. But let me know, you guys drop your thoughts in the comments. What are you guys watching? What is something, are you WNBA Finals? You're watching your playoff baseball. What's intriguing you in the weekend sports? And speaking of the weekend sports, we have to talk about the week that was in the NFL. And listen, if you're some teams, you're feeling pretty good. You had a bounce back week. Speaking of going to the NFL. And then we have the upsets. But if you're listen, if you're a 49ers fan, you gotta feel really good at what you got out of Mac Jones. Mac Jones is a guy. Listen, Mac Jones is the type of guy, and I think I heard someone talk about this, is that when he was getting drafted, I see your comment, Craig. Listen, I shouldn't laugh at that comment, but my wise man knows the trigger points in a good way. But listen, for San Francisco, there's no quarterback controversy. Brock Purdy's the guy. But it's like Mac Jones went out there, and we see him bounce from after he left New England. Jacksonville, he starts a couple of games there. Then he's found a place in San Francisco where he's comfortable in Kyle Shanahan's system. Let me tell you something. He looks like a guy. Listen, all those injuries, and they went in the game. Listen, in the NFC West matchup against a very good Rams team, and took care of business. And I can never know with these cameras. Okay, there I am. And so it's very impressive on that part. Speaking of now, we talk about impressive. Look. Listen, another great game. Listen, Denver and Philly. We talked about Denver and Philly. And so, I'll get to that in a minute. Craig, come on, my God. Boyd is going to deliver as much as Tony Angelo. Look. See, now you put me in a conflict. But I'm hoping Matthew Boyd ends up like my guy Stacks, and just goes out there and change the narrative and goes after the norm and plays great. Because Tony D'Angelo, we see he can't deliver. I still want. Do we ever know what happened when he was in the restaurant? It's like a dark shadowy figure. Did we ever get closure on that on NXT? But speaking of wrestling, we'll get to that on the back end as well. But hopefully, Boyd can go out there, get a couple strikeouts, and kind of hold and maintain that Brewers offense for a couple of innings. But going back to another great game, Denver going on the road, beating the Eagles. The Eagles play tonight against a Giants team who lost against the then winless New Orleans Saints. I guess my thoughts is that if you're a Philly fan, I'm not worried. I think if there was a game the Giants, for the Eagles, this is the perfect game for them. Thursday night games, bounce back against the Giants team who lost, like I said, against the Saints, against the Aints, and face a rookie quarterback. But let me tell you something. That Giants defense is very good. It's a very good defense. But listen, you're an Eagles fan, you're calm, you're great. But it arguably like the whole Tennessee thing. I want to talk about that, but I want to listen. Baker Mayfield made his MVP case. 379 yards passing. You want to talk about like an absolute shootout? That second half was, and in that second half, by the way, uh, Seattle outscored them 28-25, and Tampa Bay still won. You look at Baker's numbers: 29-33, 379 yards, 2 touchdowns, took 1 sack. You know, it's hard. And then here's the thing. What was so great about this game, they converted on third down. Tampa Bay was 7 of 11, and Seattle was 6 of 9. This was a fun game to watch, and one of the things is that, like, I think Baker made his case, and then we talked about this with Justin Herbert as well. But like Baker Mayfield, and listen, as the Falcons fan in me doesn't want to say it, but it's like Baker has found. Think about this. He was kind of exiled out of Cleveland after the whole Deshaun Watson situation, and he bounced around. He went to Carolina, went for the Rams. He bounced around, and he found a home in Tampa when they needed a quarterback, where like the whole Kyle Trask thing didn't work out so well. So penultimately, he's working out well in Tampa. And it's just a great story. Like, if Baker wasn't playing against us twice a year, I'd probably root for the guy. But I think Baker's making it. And listen, it helps to have great receivers. Emeka Ibuka. Hope I said it right. I know Gronk has a different variation of it. So I hope I said it right. Emeka Ibuka. And if there's one thing they do great in Tampa, which scares me, they know how to draft receivers. And given their, no Mike Evans, and then that Tez Johnson is great, Cade Otton is great. This offense is great. And Baker's gonna listen. Baker's gonna, as long as Baker's under center, Tampa Bay in an NFC where, we saw the Eagles. We don't know. Like, Tampa Bay could make a case to make a playoff run. And listen, I have to separate being a Falcons fan and then being an NFL side. Listen, it's very impressive what Todd Bowles is doing. That defense, sure, they can shore up some things a bit, but Baker is absolutely, he's playing out of his mind. He's playing fantastic. Now, we went from playing fantastic to not so much playing fantastic. And that was the Baltimore Ravens. Now, look, no Lamar, but they managed 10 points. And what I always say, and my thoughts on that game is, man, listen, that Ravens is two things can be true at the same time. Man, that Ravens defense is decimated. It looks rough. Injury, I think Kyle Hamilton, like they broke on Smith, and a couple of guys on IR. It looks very bad down, in Baltimore. But it's like Houston. We talked about Houston. We talked about that offensive line. We talked about, like, C.J. Stroud looked good. The Ravens defense sands Lamar Jackson, just 10 points. And listen, that DeMeco Ryans Texans-led defense is very good. But now you look at where they're standing in the AFC North, and you got to look around. And is that Pittsburgh's 3-1, Cincinnati's 2-3, and they traded for Joe Flacco. So they must believe that Baltimore. But let me tell you something. I don't think Baltimore's going to finish last in this division. I don't. Because the health of Lamar Jackson, easily top 3 quarterback. You could make a case top 2 quarterback in the National Football League. Easily top 3. Some people may want to dispute it, but listen, we could debate Josh Allen and Lamar all day. But my biggest question is, and we don't talk about John Harbaugh a lot, and I've said it a lot, and I'm just going to say it like this. We got to have that conversation because defensively, I get it. They're not healthy. I totally get that. Like that to me is the narrative, and I get it. Sorry for my. You see me adjusting. Like I noticed when I was back when I did the huddle up, which was with the great with my bestie Rachel, and meeting so many amazing people there. I noticed my collar was like no matter what shirt I wear, it's my collar. So if you see me adjusting the collar, it's OCD or whatever it is. But back to the football, it's a situation where like held to Lamar Jackson, they can. It's essentially I still feel that Pittsburgh can hang around. Cincinnati, listen, getting Joe Flacco. We've seen Joe Flacco what he did with Cleveland his first time around, and the only problem I have with Cincinnati is that defense has to shore it up. It's like, and that was an issue going into the season. And what concerns me with Joe Flacco is that the offensive line for Cincinnati is still an issue. And given, and I love Joe Flacco. He's a great story, great guy, great dude. But that offensive line, can you keep him upright? And maybe Cincinnati could do something, but that defense and offensive line. And I talked about like last week, where like decisions were made, and like with Newton's third law of motion, for every action is the equal opposite reaction. So so when you pay one, you have to slacken another. But that was very competitive. And then also kind of I want to go back to that Tennessee Arizona game. And shout out to Tennessee because listen, Cam Ward called out his team. He called them X. And you're like, whoa. And mind you, literally the ball bounced Tennessee's way, literally. Because Emmanuel, DeMarcado fumbling at the goal, fumbling for a game to the end zone. The catch, fumble. Tennessee recovers. And people are talking about the reaction of Jonathan Gannon on the sidelines. Here's the thing. I don't believe like it's a fine issue, but here's the thing. Here's what I kind of look at it and say is that could cost. Arizona's been a team where they've always let down. Like if I see Arizona as a favorite, I kind of go with the underdog, whoever they're playing. And then like Kyler Murray is great, Trey McBride is great, but there's something about that team. And that game could very well either cost Arizona a playoff spot, could cost Jonathan Gannon his job. Because at some point, you got to, I know it's the NFC West, but it seems like Seattle, Sam Darnold first year, like Mike McDonald, like that team's looking great. San Francisco's looking great. The Rams are looking great. You're the only team in the division that's not looking great. And no matter what the perspective is and how you feel about, Arizona, it's like you have to acknowledge that there's an issue there. And it's not an issue. It's like they're a team. And I heard somebody say this. I don't know if it was, but I agree with it. Like, it's like when they get a lead, they go like, oh my, they become like a deer in headlights. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to hold the lead, running the football, making smart plays, smart reads, keeping the ball in bounds, time of possession. To me, turnover, tempo, time. Those are my personal three things. Is that if you're controlling the tempo of the game, you win the turnover margin and the time of possession. And it feels like Arizona's not great at two of those things. It feels like they're not great. Like they turn over the ball on themselves and they can't, like their tempo is off. And like whether how you feel about Jonathan Gannon putting hands on the player, and I'm curious to get you guys' thoughts on that. Because the fact of the matter is, it's a very tense situation there in Arizona. Because we're potentially talking about jobs. We're talking about like one game could change the course in a sport, in a league that plays 17 games, which is significantly less than their other counterparts in the NHL, in Major League Baseball, and the NBA. Like every game matters, but in the NFL, it literally does matter. And it's not trying to knock and say that, oh, there's your saying all that. No. like there's frustration, especially if you lose the ones that you could win because you can't get those back. And speaking of wins, showing some love. Listen, the New England Patriots and the job that Mike Vrabel has done. Drake May went in there, looked absolutely, he looked fantastic. And that 23-20 win. Listen, it's not the end of the world for Buffalo. But if there was an Achilles heel for Buffalo, it's their defense. And listen, Drake May went in there, 22-20, 273, didn't throw a touchdown. But the offense looked good. And so you look at New England, you look at how they, it was all about the run game. Essentially 2 rushing touchdowns from Rodamondre Stevenson, I believe, was the difference. And Josh Allen didn't play terrible. It's just that 22 of 31, 253, 2 touchdowns. He threw a critical interception. And I did it like now, listen, turnover. Listen, Buffalo had 3 turnovers. Just like I mentioned previously about like the keys that I love: turnover, tempo, and time. Buffalo won the time of possession, but they lost the turnover margin, and the tempo just never felt there. And listen, they said Drake May 4 times defensively. So it's not the end of the world. But now this division gets very interesting because like the Dolphins and the Jets, it feels like it's already week 5, and it's like, well, like the only team who has a shot is New England. And this is and like listen, and that was and now we're entering week 6, saying that, man, it feels like New England and Buffalo. New England could very well sneak in and make the postseason. The job that Mike Vrabel's coming to and changing the attitude, changing, it's wonders. And that makes you think, should Tennessee have fought? But anyway, it's a different conversation for another day. But that was a big time win for New England. And now you have that 1 game advantage. And by the way, the next time you play them, this time you're going to play them in New England. And next time you play them, it's going to be in December, coming off your bye week in week 15, coming off your week 14 bye. And you look at New England's schedule. Like their next, like they're going to play this. They're going to be in New Orleans. They're going to be in Tennessee. They're going to play Cleveland. Probably, their next, those are their next 3 games. And like from week, listen, they got Atlanta, Tampa, the Jets, and since like they could go on a run. They could like think about this. Like the New England Patriots, after after week 8, could potentially be 6-2. Like 6-2, 5-3 before they face Atlanta. Before they face Atlanta in week 9. And now you look at Buffalo's stretch. Now you look at Buffalo's schedule. Listen, they're gonna play Atlanta Monday night. No, you know who I'm rooting for there. But after the bye, they got Carolina, and they got Kansas City, got Miami. Like they're in a situation where that Atlanta game's not a slam dunk. Because listen, I'm telling you, as a fan, I have no idea which Falcons team is going to show up. I want it to be the one that played the Commanders and not the one where we played Carolina and led in every offense and still lost. If we get that point from the Commanders game, that Buffalo game now becomes very, very, very interesting. It's an interesting conversation to have. So it's something to think about. And then something to think about, I want to shift to college football. And listen, 2 teams we got to have a conversation about. and it's one team I haven't talked about on the show, and one team I have talked about a lot. And we'll go to the team I haven't talked about, and that's Penn State. And if you're a Penn State fan, like here, if you're Penn State and you're coming off a all-time classic against Oregon, so you get the conference loss. So you're traveling cross country to face a UCLA team. To face a UCLA team that's bad. They fired Deshaun Foster, interim head coach, interim play callers on both sides of the ball. And you lose. You give up 42 points. 42. And we're all looking around like, well, who's to blame? And it's like they paid a very good Jim Knowles. Like Jim Knowles and his resume. It speaks for itself. And highest paid defensive coordinator, by the way. Oh, it's my bestie. It is Rachel. Hey, bestie. I was just talking about we had fun at the huddle up, and met some amazing people, met some familiar faces, met some new faces. Absolutely love it. But let me tell you something. I don't know, like a station break, and I didn't have time to say it during the huddle up, but what my bestie does here with Unwind is absolutely amazing, and she makes a difference in the fantasy football community. You want to talk about a game changer? She bring, like, it's a great group of women. I'm lucky and honored to know many of them who are part of the Unwind, family. Well, I don't say family, but so many amazing women there, and she's a testament to that, and her work that she does is absolutely amazing. And I just want to shout out her by the work that she does in that regard. So shout out to my bestie and all the work that she does there. And then we have John dropping in, saying the Falcons might as well be the London Silly Nannies for Family Cup. We don't have Peter Pan there. Listen, after what I saw on Sunday night, John, like if the Atlanta team that shows up, because you never know, and like shout out to Chelsea Messenger, because I was talking to her, she made up a point about like how certain teams, you don't know how they're going to play on a week-to-week basis. It's the inconsistency, and like how Jacksonville won on Monday night on a great, Trevor Lawrence thinking, oh man, it's always on the ground, and then he runs in and scores the game-winning touchdown. And we talked about Jacksonville, and Jacksonville's what, 4-1? So, and we don't talk about that enough. Like how great was, early on in the season. And like Atlanta's, a few things here and there, we're having a different conversation about Atlanta. So it's a matter of which team shows up on a week-to-week basis. It's about consistency. And sometimes, even though you could lose games, it's about the consistency. It's about showing up. It's about showing up when it matters the most. And I can't stress that enough. It's about showing up the most when it counts in that regard. So shifting gears back to my point about Penn State. Think about this. Penn State right now, they're 0-2 in the Big Ten. They're 0-2. They're only 2 losses. To me, it's the second best conference in the nation, behind the SEC. And they're 0-2. Listen, Rutgers, Purdue, and Wisconsin. Those are other teams that are 0-2. And Michigan State's 0-2. Like, think about that. And people that will call for James Franklin's job. I'm not there yet. People are saying I should, I'm not there yet. And I'm looking at their schedule. Look at their schedule. They can bounce back against Northwestern. at home on the 11th. And then right there they go at Iowa bye week and the big game, and then in the back-to-back weeks they got to face Ohio State in Indiana. That's where if they can take care of business against Northwestern and Iowa, then they're going to walk in 2-2, even keel in the Big Ten, and then the first 2 weeks of November they're facing two of the top teams in the conference in Ohio State and Indiana. I'm not ready, and I know James Franklin's record against top AP top 25, AP top 5 teams, top 10 teams. If those were the two more important games for any head coach in the country, those are the two games. Because James Franklin, you got to bounce back against Northwestern. You got to bounce back against Iowa. Go in there 5-2, go in the bye, and game plan and try to stop Ohio State. And then you got to face Indiana back in Penn State. I'm not there yet. So let's get rid of James Franklin. Because and I get it. I understand the pressure of the job. It's not the first time. But James Franklin, you have to win like this. That UCL loss hurt simply because it felt like that UCLA team was just motivated. And they hung up 42 points on arguably one of the highest paid defense core in the country and one of the best defense core in the country, Jim Knowles, and given his track record. That's what makes it interesting because, listen, go look at UCLA. They lost to a couple of group of five. Like, oh, man, this team is terrible. Even I talked about it. And they impressed me. They came together. And John saying, shouting out to Rachel. So to me, I'm not there yet. I'm not exactly there yet in terms of firing or like. And then we have Craig, Seth, James, Franklin, Rollins. Oh man, I mean, if you're gonna give Seth Rollins like that's interesting, a head coach, man. You got me thinking. You got me thinking, Craig. You got me thinking. That's catchy. I love it. Like I said, I keep saying, Craig, let me know your availability, and because I want you on the show 1 week. I want you on the show, and shout out to co-host Haley. Shout out to, like I said, to her Tigers. I hope they get the W there in the Pacific Northwest. But and then another thing I want to talk about in college football, I want to talk about like the Texas Longhorns. And people are like, and people think, oh, you're going to go after Arch. No, I'm not. I'm not going after Arch this time. You'll know exactly who I'm going after. Listen, they played my Gators, and listen, I'm gonna lie to you. I'm like Texas. If they need a turnaround game, Texas needs to prove, there's something to prove. And now it feels like I don't say they're in a similar situation with Penn State. Now they're both 3-2, but like what gets lost in all of this is that Florida, I've always said, this is nothing as a fan. They're talented. It's like sometimes with Billy Napier, it's the time management decision. That impacted outside of turnover, tempo, and time. Some of that can be influenced by the coaching. Like the turn, especially the time and the tempo. Super important. And so I'm not going after to Arch. This is a situation where Steve Sarkisian, because like I said, I'm not going to take back the things I said about Arch, because I doubled down I doubled down how I feel about Arch. And then Greg said, just got to plan it ahead of time. Someday we'll sort it. Wise man, thank you. And we got somebody here. Greg, look, Dallas Wilson is going to be in the NFL event. He's still having them both my Debbie. Greg, like if you want a guy who knows this stuff, get my guy Craig. When he's talking about Dallas Wilson. Dallas Wilson is an absolute stud at receiver for the Gators. And I think that doesn't get talked about enough. That's what I'm glad, listen. It speaks to the point. I know this Gators team is talented. I'm just not saying it for hyperbole. I know they're talented. It's just that sometimes it doesn't get shown, and that's the part. Listen, Arch, but here's the issue with Arch. 16-29, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Now listen, both the Gators and the Longhorns had 2 interceptions. So the turnover thing is equal. Texas had 3 more penalties, 10-7. Florida's offense, 457. The Texans defense, I keep saying the Texans defense. When I look at that Texas defense, that's an issue. I'm not gonna put it all on Arch. Arch, if it was like a pie chart, Arch would play like he has a slice on there. But going back to the Gators, DJ Lagway, 21-28, 75%. Listen, what I've said about DJ Lagway, excellent completion percentage. When the ball gets out of hand, it's going to find a Gators receiver. 280, 298, 2 touchdowns and interception. But to Craig's point about Dallas Wilson, 6 receptions, 111 yards, and accounted for both of those touchdowns. And like Craig said, he's a Sunday player, as we like to say. So the fact of the matter is, hang on just a minute here. At the end of the day, like to Craig's point, that's a Sunday player and showed up in the moment. But to Texas, now we talked about Penn State. And like I said, I don't think Texas and Penn State are similar situations. But when you look at Texas's schedule, of course, they got the Red River rivalry, which we'll talk about Brown's big bets. And you look at their schedule. So, like I said, they got Oklahoma, they got Kentucky, they got back-to-back SEC road games, Kentucky and Mississippi State. Then they host Vanderbilt. The Biggie, listen, they got Georgia, Arkansas, and Texas at the end of the season. Listen, for Texas, the season's not lost. But if they're in a must, you gotta beat Oklahoma because now not only it's a conference game, and do you want to be down 0-2? Then you would be in James Franklin territory, where I tell you, listen, then you gotta win back to back on the road. But in this case, Texas got to go on the road, Kentucky and Mississippi State. Then you got to go Vanderbilt. Then you get the bye week, and then you play Texas. That's far down the road. But Texas needs they're in a must-win situation. That's a must-win situation. Like for Arch Manning, if he was a different type of quarterback, but his last name and the expectations get higher. But I've always it's the completion percentage. I went back when he played Sam Houston State. I'm like, you got to complete 60% of your passes to me to be a quarterback. I give you 6 out of 10 because think about it in baseball, you're considered a great hitter if you 3 out of 10 times at the plate you get a hit. Like hitting 400, Ted Williams did it. Not nobody else. I can be fact checked, but I'm pretty sure no one else did 400, and that's 4 out of 10 times. So that's the logic. It's 6, but to be a quarterback, that's why I say with Lagway, one of the things that's impressive. Listen, he throws the ball, it gets into somebody's hands that's on the team, and utilize that. This Gators team is absolutely talented, and they showed it. Now, am I saying that's going to save Billy Napier's job? I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is that now Billy Napier, 2-3. You got a great defense, and like I say, defense travels well. You'll hear me say that again later in Brown Pick Bets. Then you gotta go to Texas. You gotta go to College Station You gotta face Texas A&M. Then you're gonna host Mississippi State. You get a bye. Then we play Georgia neutrally in Jacksonville. Like, so Billy Napier's not out of the woods yet. So just something to think about. It's like I said, James Franklin's job is fine. Sark's job, I guess, is fine. Billy Napier's job is still on the line. Let's be super clear. Like, great win against Texas, but how you play? How do you follow that up? Going on the road to College Station, and that defense showed up. Can it do it again against a Mike Elko, who also has a great defense and has a great offensive down there in College Station? So we're getting to that part of the show. Before we get to Brown's big bets, we put a button on the show. Like and comment for this episode, every episode of Sports in the World podcast, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Want to do? I think Greg said, like, listen, I hope it's been a 5-star performance. Maybe operating at 3.5, 4. I don't know. It's up to you, America. But I appreciate that. Leave your thoughts on the show. Listen, always comment, drop questions on the show. I'll always answer on the show. You can follow me Twitter, TikTok at _Brown, _Brown on Instagram, Facebook posting, and I posted a preview of the Thursday night game between the Eagles and the Giants on my social media platform. So check that out as well. I see the Facebook page getting a lot of love for Sports in the World. So shout out to all of those supporting the page, all of those supporting, taking time out of your day to listen to me. Much appreciated. Now, before we get out of here, Brown's big bets. Now, last week didn't do so great on the big bets, but so now, like I said, trying to get back on the horse, with these bets. And so I got 3. Once again, I got an over under and a couple of lines. Now let's go to the Big Ten. Let's talk about Oregon again. They're facing number 7 Indiana up in there in Eugene, Pacific. With Oregon, when we faced Penn State, I took the under, and I lost by a couple of points because the game went to overtime. But I'm taking the under again, 55.5. As much as I love both these offenses, defense travels well. And for Indiana, they've allowed 3.8 team opponent second half points per game. That's the third fewest in the nation. Oregon, we talk about how great the defense is. They're 9th in the nation in team opposing yards per play at 4 yards a play. Do I expect points? Sure, but I don't think it's going to be as high scoring. I think this comes down to Dan Lanning defense versus Kurt Cignetti. That's the chess match to watch out for. As great as Dante Moore is, as great as Indiana's offense is, I think we might hit the under here. For my sake, I hope it is. So once again, give me the under between Indiana and Oregon. Take the under. If you get under 55.5, if you see it move, if you see it moving in a downward direction, I might be tempted to take the over, but a part of me just feels, looking at the numbers, hopefully I get it right, 55.5 there. Now, I talked about it earlier, Oklahoma and Texas. Oklahoma comes in number 6 in the country. Texas is favored by 1.5. This is easy for me. Give me Oklahoma plus 1.5 to win it, or I can win it outright. Because I know it's a rivalry, anything can happen. Oklahoma, just about their defense. We talk about Brent Venables has that defense playing well. Think about Oklahoma and defense, with all those years, Bob Stoops, all those great offensive, Brent Venables has this defense playing well. Listen, they allow the second fewest yards per game in the nation at 203.5 yards. Now you look at Texas. Texas, same thing defensively. They're 10th in team opponent first downs per game, only allowing almost 14 at 13.8. I feel in this game, Texas's defense has to step up and kind of be the catalyst for for this Texas offense, because this Texas offense, for all intents and purposes, doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. And like I said, I'm not putting it all on Arch. Like Sarkisian plays a role in this, but give me Oklahoma plus 1.5. And like I said, could Texas win it? Sure, but I haven't seen nothing to say like, oh, could it be an upset? I know it's a rivalry, but I know what I'm getting in Oklahoma, and so I go with the assurance of what I. So once again, give me Oklahoma plus 1.5. Last but not least, changing it up. Let's go. I like to have like a good West Coast game, and if you know what, Haley, we talk about like Big Ten teams playing out west, like 10, 30, 11 o'clock East Coast time. But we're going to the home of Las Vegas. We're going to Nevada as the Aztecs of San Diego State face the Wolfpack of Nevada. And listen, I like San Diego State minus 7.5 here, and it's simply put like red zone. And San Diego State is one of the 16 teams in the country that when they get in the red zone, they come away with either a touchdown or a field goal. They come away with points. Now, in that same category, Nevada is 69.2% red zone score, and that's 125th in the country. Simply put, San Diego State gets in the red zone, they're going to put up points. Nevada gets in the red zone, not so much. And it's a little bit risky, 7.5. That's why I said I think the Eagles, I think their line went up to 7.5, and I'm like, I don't know. Like, I just feel like I said, shifting gears with the Eagles, it's a bounce back game. Like both teams need to bounce back, obviously, but for Philly, we haven't. Like, think about this: Saquon Barkley's averaging under 55 yards a game rushing. This could be the game, friends and future friends, where he finds that gear, he finds that ignition, and could be the catalyst against, once again, a team that let him walk out the door. But as for college football, give me San Diego State minus 7.5. And here's the rundown once again. If you want to tail it. If not, I understand. Give me under 55.5 points for Indiana and Oregon. Give me the plus 1.5 for Oklahoma facing Texas, and give me minus 7.5 for San Diego State over Nevada. Friends and future friends, that's all the time we have for this episode. And once again, listen to this episode and every episode of the Sports in the World podcast, Apple, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. Drop a like and comment on it. Let me know you like the show. Share the episode. Tell your friends. Tell your family. I appreciate all of you taking time out of your day to listen to me and watch me. And it's something, to address, but I might address that in a separate video. I don't know. I'll let you know. But until then, friends and future friends, I'm Ladarius. Be real, be you, be blessed, and be safe from all of us here from the Sports and the World podcast.